Right, it's GABS FM, power to engage your world. Music from Bangu, Peace of Mind at 7:44. We've been struggling to get a hold of our next guest this morning, who is Bradley Fortuin. He is on the line right now as we have this conversation. Now, Bradley, welcome to GABS FM, bro. How are you doing?
Hey, morning, Dollar, morning, everyone, and morning to the listeners.
Morning. Bradley, thank you so much for taking time and talking to us. I know we've been struggling to contact you. Hagitor Maranyani, and he is from Southern Africa Litigation Center. What do you do there?
So a lot of the work that we do at the Southern Africa Litigation Center is really around promoting democracy, promoting human rights. And then that means also working with local grassroots organizations in Southern Africa.
And I bet you are glued onto what the Trump administration is doing in the U.S. And let's talk about the impact of that on regional advocacy.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty sad, right? And very unfortunate on what is happening. I think one of the two major orders that Trump has signed, which is around ending racial and wasteful government DI programs and defending women from gender ideology and extremism is very bad because it affects everyone. I think one of the major impacts is access to health, right? And there's a lot of focus around KP programming, key populations, but it's beyond that. It not only affects HIV programming for LGBTIQ people, but HIV program for everyone. It affects access to TB medications. It affects access to malaria treatment, access to condoms, PrEP and PEP. I think that's also very important, especially looking at the rape statistics in Botswana, where and after that, where victims need to go and have access to PEP for that. That's going to impact that. It's going to further impact issues around migration, and I know a lot of us, especially young people, are very interested in participating in the YALI program, which is like very essential for skills development. That's going to be impacted because it essentially there's going to be a lot of restrictions of people going to the U.S. Right, and I think even further on, access to clean water, to sanitation. In other countries where there's a famine, wars happening, for example, Sudan, Mozambique, and so forth, that's going to be impacted because people are not going to have access to these resources. And I think also for women also, because this also impacts a lot on women's rights, especially around bodily autonomy, SRHR rights, and issues around economic empowerment for women. All these funding, by the mere fact that they are poor, women don't have access to these resources, is really going to impede on them also being able to provide for themselves, to provide for their families, and it's going to further push women to the margins of society where they can't access issues, services around development, be able to participate in civic processes, and so forth, and just further makes them more vulnerable to gender-based violence, to abuse, economic injustices. So this really impacts everyone, and I think it's unfortunate that as the world, including Botswana, we are all somehow largely dependent on foreign aid, and a lot of that comes from the U.S. I think that's also largely because of what's happening in countries, socio-economic, political circumstances that people face. So it's pretty bad. Yeah.
Bradley, I want us to focus on the Southern African context, because I've seen a lot of people on social media saying it's high time that this funding stopped. It's high time we become dependent on ourselves. What are your thoughts on that? Do people realize the magnitude of what this tap closing means?
Yeah, I really don't think people are aware. It's easy for folks to just go online and say, "Oh no, it's high time the Botswana government becomes independent. We should move away from foreign aid and so forth." Right? And yes, essentially, we all as governments, countries would love to get to that point. I just think also the world as a global village, that essence of we're not isolated. People do need each other for support. Now, imagine if in a country where there's civil war, civil unrest happening, Mozambique, for example, or Tanzania, or not Tanzania, sorry, DRC. How are people going to? How is the government going to support the people? And I think it's like multifaceted, countries abiding by the rule of law, how their governance is, and so forth. That's also issues that people need to be addressing and talking about, and ensuring that we strengthen all of these different aspects. And before we can just jump on and say, oh, we need to move away. If we move away, what's going to happen now, right? I mean, I think now over like 20 million people are not going to have access to HIV services. Like over 2.9 million children even are going to be affected because they won't have access to malaria treatment. And I know a lot of focus is on health. Our health system generally in Southern Africa are not really strong enough to carry the whole country. And that's stuff also that we as citizens should also be holding people who we entrust with our votes when we elect, to ensure that, why do we still have long lines at Marina? Why are there not services available, And we also have a role to play, and not putting all the focus on government, but everyone also. Yeah.
Are we able to come up with alternative solutions, Bradley? What can we do? I mean, if Trump doesn't want to help us, what can we do?
We're broke.
We're broke.
How can we fix the situation?
I don't have all the answers, right? But I think one of the things, and at least that's what we are doing at SALC also, is monitoring the situation, what is going on. We're in contact with the local organizations that we support in the region, and also just engaging with development partners, both UNDP, UNAID. I know their hands are tied also, but just keeping in touch with that. I think also we need to be aware on why this is happening, and it's not something that just came overnight. These are stuff that have been in development for years, probably decades, way before Trump came in. And it's part of the whole anti-race, anti-gender movement, which really, in all essence, just wants to erase LGBTIQ identities. They want to restrict women's rights and so forth. So I think as communities also, we know they have power, but I think it's for us also to realize our own power. And what are we going to do with our power? How are we going to collectively address this?
Here's a text message that says BDP should have invited U.S. universities for partnerships in medicine, sports, education, agri during the U.S. Africa Business Summit they hosted in 2023. Thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't know much around it, but I do think that is already existing exchange programs between the government of Botswana and the U.S. I stand corrected on that, though. But
yeah, I know you're about
I think also one of the things also, and I know we keep talking about Botswana as to diversify our economy. And I think that more than ever really needs to happen. I don't know how we are going to do it, but that's some of the things that we do need to
But like some people are even saying, why don't we look for aid somewhere else, like China or Russia, because the US is not just the only player in the market.
I think just to clear also, I don't think that the U.S. is the only one that also contributes to foreign aid, especially to countries such as Botswana. There are other countries that contribute also, but not on a large scale that could be able to sustain and so forth. Most of the other funding really is like small portions. Just so happens that the United States happens to be like one of the largest people who, governments who do foreign aid. But that also is something to consider. And this also comes with how do we strengthen our bilateral relations, our diplomatic relations with other countries, and so forth. Right? So I think that's another possibility, yes.
Yeah, because when I look at PEPFAR, for example, since its inception in 2003, they have given us $1 billion in terms of aid. That's in a 22-year period, and this was to ensure that HIV and AIDS is no longer a health, how can I put it, a health emergency by 2030, just 5 years away. Where can Botswana look now? Should we look within?
I think look within also, at least one of the solutions. Look within, look in, do we have philanthropic folks in the country who are also willing to contribute, give back to community and so forth. I think that's one of the things. I talk about collective power. I think we also need to see how that looks like as a community, so that we also from within Botswana can also see how we can also be self-reliant. We always talk about being self-reliant, but how does that also sustain us, especially around health systems?
And here's another text message. I think they need you to clarify this and says, what does this mean for Botswana against the fight, HIV/AIDS?
I think it might take us back. Look, we've achieved our 95 goals. I think we might have exceeded that even. But what does that mean? It means there's going to be a huge limitation in access to ARV treatments for everyone, right? For our mothers, our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors, our helpers, everyone. There's going to be a lot of limitations around simple issues, counseling services. So it's really going to take us back, and our health systems already are failing us. So that's also like another element. I think I don't want to say disaster, but it doesn't look good. And imagine like tomorrow you were planning to go and refill your ARV treatment. Now you can't, because no one can give out medication, right? Unless if you are able to go to the private doctors and all. But that's going to be a lot of limitations in terms of access to HIV treatment and care.
Wow, we're out of time, Bradley. There's a case before the U.S. courts now where the D.C. federal judge temporarily blocks Donald Trump for the plan to pause your nether federal aid. How do you hope this will go? What do you wish for going forward?
I hope it actually works, and I actually read up on that where a few NGOs got together. I think that's very brave of them, but we'll see how the justice system goes on that, and if they really are in favor of human rights, right? We'll just hope for the best around that.
Bradley Fortuin, thank you so much for taking time and talking to us, my bro. Always great catching up with you. And thank you for unpacking this. Remember, Bradley is from Southern Africa Litigation Center. Enjoy, my brother.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers.
Engage with us. WhatsApp us now on +267 395 6962. GABS FM.